Due to bribery and recent corruption among the politicians preceding these years,
during a time when our federal powers were still being shaped,
it is hereby decreed by the legislature of Georgia that the legislative act passed 2 years prior to 1796 is repealed.
a quibble over land blossoms into a constitutional conundrum.
The sales and purchases of the Yazoo lands to the following 4 companies: the Georgia Company, the Mississippi Company, the Upper Mississippi Company, and the Tennessee Company have now been rescinded. Warrants and deeds are heretofore nullified.
Fletcher versus Peck, limiting state governments since 1810. Meet John Peck and Robert Fletcher, 2 would-be business partners about to change history.
I presume you got my message, did you not?
Indeed. I tarried here to the secluded hovel to conduct, I dare say, legal transactions.
Precisely.
Enlighten me about these Yazoo territories.
The sovereign state of Georgia, some 20 years ago, claimed a large chunk of land, 35 million acres, already occupied by the native Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Creek tribes. A river runs through most of this territory. The heathens named it the Yazoo River, according to their strange tongues and dialects. These lands are fertile. Though Indian infested, speculators say they're worth the effort.
But these territories were involved in similar legislation before. What's the catch? This deal seems susceptible to Bostonian trickery. 15,000 acres of land, low cost, all claims surrendered.
I comprehend your circumspection, sir, but allow me to show you this deed, signed by the Georgia State Legislature, dated on Army 1795.
Let's see, governor's seal, signatures of the legislature.
That's right.
All seems to be in order. Have you the contract?
As you wish.
Now, in 1806, Fletcher is distraught at his current condition.
Plans for the future dashed at their inceptions. So, I strolled up to the land agent, brandishing the faulty deed. He informed me of the recent Georgian legislative actions, and here I am.
'Twasn't even recent, my dear Fletcher. This Peck character has swindled you. He was obviously conscious of these states' repeals.
Proper legal action is due here, Robert. Don't let this man flaunt the law as if it were his own to flaunt. Call a lawyer, preferably from Boston, seeing how you were tricked.
But I have already tried. The federal circuit courts in Massachusetts acquitted the bloke.
Preposterous indeed. As I've previously stated, proper is the operative word here. You should not have tried the man in his home state. After all, you yourself are suspicious of Boston insincerity.
But where else?
To the Supreme Court. It's the highest law in the land. For I believe, my dear Robert, that there's an underlying sub-theme in your dispute with Peck. It involves the state legislature that directly contradicts the Constitution itself. What I mean to say is that if this case reaches the Supreme Court, it will set an important precedent for years to come. It is just a conjecture on my part.
Rather torpid weather we've been having in the northern corridor lately.
Yes, Jim.
Later, Fletcher did appeal to the Supreme Court under John Marshall. His lawyer was the anti-federalist Luther Martin. Joseph Story and his counsel rose in the defense of Peck. These 4 men, engaged at first in a dispute over territory, rose into prominence as precedents. The political affiliations of the lawyers suggest a political showdown to come. Oh, the black lotus of political changes blooms yet.
On this February 1810, the Supreme Court of these United States will hear the case of Robert Fletcher versus John Peck. May the prosecution now rise. Do you have an opening statement at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
114 years ago, our forefathers declared independence from a tyrannical country with no regards to life, liberty, and property.
It is of the latter that we are here today, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
We have a man resulted from confusing lawmaking and deliberately swindled legislations to deprive him of his rightful money. Mr. Fletcher has been cheated of $3,000 of land through a faulty deed that the state of Georgia has nullified. Does the state legislature have the power to take away what has been dethroned like an Indian giver? Thank you.
Defense, do you have an opening statement at this time?
Yes, Your Honor, I do. The Yazoo territory was sold to my client some 10 years ago.
And the case began earnestly. Deed holder John Peck sells his warrant of 15,000 acres of land to Robert Fletcher. Fletcher sues Peck because the title was not clear at the time of transaction. And the verdict?
This verdict, as it deals with the opposition between the Constitution and the law, requires the judge to feel a strong, coherent incompatibility between the two. Since there is no restriction on the legislative power of Georgia to declare the land contracts void, it cannot be said that the legislature has transcended its powers and violated the Constitution by doing so. The members of the Georgia legislature worked to profit from the sale of the Yazoo lands by passing the Act of 1795. Such corruption in our infant republic ought to be deplored. But what amount of fraud must be proven for this court to overturn an act? This court cannot sustain a suit brought on by one individual against another on the allegation that this act is in nullity.
And what did we learn today, kids?
I learned that with Marshall's ruling, the government can't just buy my house and build some public place over it. Now I can practice my hoops in peace.
I learned that this case affects me even today, as Texas cannot pass laws that affect my right to property, like this cup of milk tea.
I learned that the state government was severely limited by the decision. Now, as a Supreme Court precedent, the state cannot infringe upon rights that it has granted to its citizens.
I learned that this landmark case, in association with many others made by Chief Justice John Marshall, shaped the world I live in today. I love American history! Yeah!